So the beauty of cloud config is we can centralize configurations. So here I have the cloud config server. Okay, using Spring Boot you can create a cloud config server. Okay, how it will help? Cloud config server I can create by adding Spring Cloud config server, okay, from our dependencies. So cloud config server starter dependency I can add, and I can create config server. In that config server project I can give access to my Git project or my Bitbucket project, or I can give access to my cloud vault where I have all the secrets, all the information about my application, either cloud vaults, storages, or your private Git or Bitbucket storages. You can keep your data like properties, file data, key value pairs. Okay, using properties files you can put your data here. You can use properties file, dot properties, or .yml file. You can use anything you can use, any kind of configuration you can use to store your properties. What is the advantage, sir? You are telling to create config server and add properties into my Git or Bitbucket. What is the benefit? So here is the benefit. Guys, go on mute if you are not talking. So here is the benefit. When I use config server and when I keep all my microservices properties here, what generally I can put in my properties file or YML file across your application. Okay, my application is having 10 microservices, 20, 30, 40 or 100 or 200 microservices I have. Let it be any number of microservices. All your microservices required properties or configurations. I have a customer service, sir. I have product service, delivery service, tracking service, comment service, review service. So many services I have, sir. So I am unable to manage them locally or within the project. What shall I do? So you keep all your microservices projects required configurations into one Git project. Create one Git repository or Bitbucket repository. There you put all your required properties. What are all they? Maybe your database configurations, or maybe your Kafka configurations, or any other services information. Anything that you want. Configuration parameters, anything that you want. So what will happen when you configure them in cloud vaults or your private Git or Bitbucket based on key value pair? Generally in properties file or YML we maintain our data configurations in the form of key and value pair only. So all that key and values your config server will read. Who should create this config server project? You only. You create this config server project and deploy into your microservices environment. If you are using Docker or your private server, or you are using your own cloud machine or your local machine, whatever it is, create a cloud server project, cloud config server project, and run it. During this cloud server project creation, add your Git path or cloud vault project in this cloud config server. That's it. It will read properties from that Git or vaults. Okay, what next? Across all your microservices you give this cloud config server path across all your microservices. So your microservices will do what? They read properties from config server, so that you can avoid your local configurations, so that I need not to do any local configurations. By using same key, if I do any local configuration, right, it will override cloud config server configurations. Using same key, if I override something, it will override config server properties. So ensure that you are not overriding, right, centralized configurations in local. In case if anything you want to override, you can do that. Manual overrides, right? Sometimes here and there you may need to override them. You can do that in your local properties file. If you configure with same key, obviously it will override. So end of the day, the conclusion with cloud config server is centralized configurations. In microservices, so many things we need to centralize, because microservices are decentralized. Microservices are decentralized means all your modules created as a separate microservices, so they decentralized. Code is not in the same project, they are distributed into multiple projects. Maintenance should not become nightmare when you create that many microservices. Maintenance of your microservices should be manageable. I don't use word simple, but it should be manageable. You should be able to manage them via central configurations or via gateways, via using logs or tracings or load balancers, whatever we can best apply, that we need to apply to maintain our microservices. So one of its main component is config server. Okay, so how to create that config server? If you see our example, we created a config server. We have taken RTA config server example, RTA information, okay, road transport authority, right? Every state will have this RTA application. There they will have RTA numbers and their codes, every RTA code. Okay, so I have created a RTA config server project with the dependency of config server here. I added cloud config server dependency, Spring Cloud config server, and in my main method I did enabled config server, enable config server. Use this annotation on top of your @Spring Boot application, and go to properties file and see. I have given one dedicated port to this server because this one also should run as a simple web application. So I given one port. Okay, it will also run on your Tomcat. Okay, and here I given spring.cloud config server dot as I am using git, right, I given git URI. So in this git project we have our properties, right? I created one git project. If you remember, we created one git project name cloud config. In that git project I created simple application dot properties. In that application dot properties, if you remember profiles concept, right, you may have lot of environments. Again, every application or every microservice will have lot of environments, so the configurations may differ from one environment to another environment. In development, your microservice will have some kind of data. In SIT, you will use some kind of some other different database configurations. UAT different database set or different Kafka configurations you will have, right? Every environment will have its own DB and other configuration setup. So for every environment you can maintain properties here in your properties file or YML file. For every environment you can maintain them. In profiles discussion we did that, right? So here I have properties spring dot config dot active on profile dev. So followed by this property, whatever properties you have till here, right, all these properties belongs to dev. and from here SIT, from here UAT. I just taken state codes and country code, right? In dev I given a different name, TS something Telanganam AP Andhra, like this, KA Karnataka. In SIT I did use different names just to show you how I am changing the properties elements for each environment. Multiple environment properties you can have here. Of how many microservices? Any number of microservices can refer these properties. So while configuring, do I need to follow any rules here, sir? Means nothing. But in case if lot of properties are coming here, sir, like 10-20 microservices we have, so using unique keys becoming very difficult, means you can use your application name or microservice name. Let's say this property belongs to TS microservice, rta.ts microservice. You can put something more extension here, rta ts microservice dot ts. So this is belongs to this so and so microservice. Easily you can able to recognize it. So you need not to use plain keys. You can use your microservice name as an extension, so that it will be more easier to you to recognize the property. This property belongs to which microservice and all. Now while reading this property, use this key. Key is same for all the environments. Values may change. Here value is different, here value is different. If I apply the same to database, right, here I may have some database properties, here I may have some database properties. Here DB instance may be one instance, here may be different instance. I just use simple properties. So who reading these properties? These properties are reading in my config server. My config server will read all the properties from this location. Okay. Can I start this application to read them? Means yes, you can start it. Obviously it will read all your properties. Run as Spring Boot app. It will run on given port number 8888. Started. Okay. Now can I able to access that properties from this config server to my local applications? Yes. I have TS application, MH microservice, DL microservice, Telangana, Maharashtra, Delhi. Multiple microservices I have here. Are they able to access this config server? Means yes. I'll show you TS microservice. I created one TS microservice client. Nothing to do, just a web project I created using Spring Web, Spring Starter Web. Okay. Here I given spring config dot import. Given my config server path, it is running in my localhost 8888 port. Actually in this project I don't have any properties, but this config server project is getting properties from remote. So whatever properties this remote project will get, all that properties will get imported here. See, simple import it is using. All that properties will get imported here. So you can imagine that all these properties, whatever properties you have here, right, all that properties will be get imported here. All means all environments? No. Whatever environment you have running, whatever profile name you have given. Okay. So here I have controller in this RTA, and I am trying to auto wiring this code. Okay, state code and country code. State code key got changed, right? You can give the latest key. Which environment value it will read? Here I have multiple environments. Here the first property is Telangana and the second property is Telangana in SIT. So it all depends which profile you are running it. So I am developing this application, sir. So which environment I need to use? You use dev. In run configurations, here profile options you have. If you give profile dev under run it, your TS microservice is going to fetch properties.
Hi, Naveen. Actually, sorry to interrupt in between. Uh, as you right now giving this profile in a configuration, right?
Correct.
Hello, I'm
Yes.
audible.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Right now you're giving the dev as a profile in configuration, right? In Eclipse, but in the real time, how we can do that?
From Jenkins you can pass it. In Jenkins, if you observe, your environment name must be configured. Somewhere they give env
Okay,
variable. There we give the profile property. If you observe it.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Run as run configurations ts application hyphen hyphen spring dot profile dot active right equal to dev. Excuse me guys. So I'm running this. God's sake, it is running. So ts microservice is running and we have url here in a controller. Print codes, it is returning country code plus state code. Localhost, yep, print codes. India or Bharat, state code Telangana. It is in dev, a different name. If I restart my service in a different environment, or let's say SIT also, parallelly same application, SIT also I want to run, sir. Okay, fine. Go to again run, run configurations. So I want to run SIT profile hyphen hyphen server dot port is equal to, I will use a different port 8282 also I will use and run it. Now same application will run in a different port also for SIT. One more copy of RTA SIT. Now see the output differences. 8181 is getting something Telanganam here. 8282 port is SIT application. Telangana. See the word difference here. You observe it, right? So based on the environment, dynamically it will switch your properties. If it is in dev, this properties. If it is in SIT, this properties. If it is in UAT, this properties. In real time, Jenkins will configure these properties. Okay, Actually we are running, while running we are passing via command line argument, right? Here in the run configurations we have given, in the run configuration we have given, while running in the run configuration we have given, in the Spring Boot configuration here given, or else via arguments also you can give hyphen hyphen spring dot active dot profile. Same way your port number also you can give. Same stuff you can do from Jenkins also. In Jenkins you can give which runtime arguments you want to pass during before run, so it will act based on the environment which you have given. Okay, so not only to this project, for all these projects they can refer data RTA controller mh data it is consuming, mh also mh RTA application also referring same cloud config server which is running in, let's say, 8383. Run this mh project also, run DL project also, DL running in 8484. okay, it is failed. See the reason, mh is failed, could not resolve mh. It is saying I don't find mh sir microservice, because environment we did not mention, default environment it is not able to fetch. We have property name mh but not able to reading it, because default environment is not available. You need to give, right? So during running, run configuration, give dev or sit. Now run it. DL also, run configuration, DL project dev, run. Now DL also will run. Maybe we can update and run it. Yeah, check mh which is running in 8383, print codes, state code Maharashtra. So final outcome, what is the final outcome of this cloud config server? I can centralize my properties across all my microservices. I can have hundreds of microservices. Still I need not to fear about how to maintain my configurations. I can maintain my configurations centrally via a YML file or via a properties file, or I can have that set of properties into my vault storages also. If I am using, I can afford clouds, or I have vault, means yes, you can refer your properties from vault storages also. Vault storages also, maybe you can refer, okay, you can refer here cloud config documentation, cloud vault, maybe you can use vault configuration dependency, and you can give your vault storage properties. Maybe if we create any vault we can try, but yeah, as I can't do now. Yeah, yes, so we are done with config server.